Dear friends, the conflict in the Middle East is now going to enter its third week, and no one knows how long this conflict is going to last, and no one really knows where this conflict is going. But there are few things that have emerged, given this chaos in different parts of the world. One is that there is a new world order which is emerging. Uh, American power is in terminal decline. Yes, America continues to be the only hyperpower in the world, so to speak. It does not have a balancing power like the former USSR was before it collapsed. But American power is in terminal decline. It is in no position, like even 20, 30 years ago, uh, America could, say, invade Iraq. Today, it is in absolutely no position to put boots on the ground anywhere in the world. I mean, yes, it can carry out a raid in Venezuela. It can bomb, uh, places in Iran, and yes, it has got a very powerful navy. And the power differential is in hard power is still quite substantial between America and the next three military superpowers, that is Russia, China, and India. But nevertheless, American power is in terminal decline. The other thing that has come to the fore is also the fact that India now is the only non hegemonic superpower of the world. I mean, technically, there are only four superpowers today, which is America, Russia, China, and India. Because to be because to be a superpower, you need economic power, hard power, and uh, to a certain degree, soft power. And perhaps it's time that middle powers like Australia, Canada, South Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, UAE, countries like that, uh, try and make even if informal, a strategic and economic alliance with India, because these alliances are not made looking at the next 2 years, 5 years, or even 10 years. They're made looking at the next 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, and it is very clear that America is not in a position to provide that kind of security that it has done for the last, you could say 50, 60 years, especially after the Second World War. I mean, we can see the relationship, kind of breaking down between America and NATO, America and Europe, and America and UK. I mean, I mean, this was kind of unthinkable even, say, a decade ago. But that's how geopolitics is. I mean, there are no permanent friends and there are no permanent enemies in geopolitics, and things can change pretty quickly. At a tactical level, also there have been some realizations. The first realization, of course, is that India today has the most brilliant, the most effective air defense system in the world. We know this because of India's spectacular success in its military operation against Pakistan, which it called Operation Sindoor. It was undertaken after the terrorist attack in India in April last year. And India undertook this military campaign in May of last year. And India first struck several terrorist sites within Pakistan, and on the 7th of May. And India intentionally targeted only terrorist infrastructure. They could have targeted the military as well, but they wanted to give Pakistan an off ramp. But Pakistan did not take that off ramp and continued to fire hundreds of aerial threats into India. For India, because the Indians' air defense system was so brilliant, it had a success rate of over 99%. That's why there was no real damage that happened in India. Now, if you see what's happening in, say, Dubai, or even in, say, in some of the projectiles that reached Israel, or the other places, the bombing in Doha. It's not as if these countries or the air bases, the US bases that are there in these areas, it's not as if they don't have an air defense system. They do. It's just that no system can work at 100% efficiency. It's only a degree of efficiency, right? So it is very clear that tactically, on the ground, if you're looking at, weapon systems that have been tested, it is very clear that the Indian air defense system, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is the best in the world today, because Pakistan is, she has a land border with India. I mean, Dubai or even Qatar or Saudi Arabia, they don't share UAE, they don't share a land border with Iran. And yet Iran is being able to, target these places. And yes, I mean, a lot of these projectiles are being stopped, but enough are getting through to cause, some degree of damage. It is also to be noted that India is perhaps the only country in the world today which has very close relations with Israel and also has very good relations with the Gulf countries and with Iran. I mean, one example of this is that, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Israel. Uh, he was honored by the Knesset in Israel, and then and just after he left, Israel bombed Iran, and then now India is one of the few countries whereby Iran is letting Indian tankers pass by the Strait of Hormuz. So, India buys Russian oil, and India does a trade deal with America. And of course, how India dealt with Donald Trump. Anyone who follows geopolitics knows that the tariffs that President Trump put on India had nothing to do with Russian oil and had more to do with a bruised ego. Uh, but whatever it was, it has been resolved, and it was an absolute masterclass in diplomacy by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Indian Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. I mean, it was just a masterclass in diplomacy, and of course, it was also another instance which highlighted India's heft in the world today. And as I mentioned earlier, that power has three components. It has an economic component. It has a component of hard power. Uh, and then there is soft power as well. So India has all three, and as I mentioned earlier, that why the middle powers of the world should form an alliance with India is because even as India rises, it is very unlikely that India will ever become a hegemonic power, because India's civilizational ethos is such that it truly believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It truly believes in the world being one family. In fact, there's a Hindu shlok which talks about Sarve Santu Sukhinaha, which talks about the entire humanity being happy. So it is not, it does not differentiate. Overall, one can see these massive changes that are happening. What is also very clear is that the Chinese air defense systems have failed spectacularly. They failed in Pakistan, they failed in Venezuela, and they have now failed in Iran as well. And if you look at Pakistan, India was able to hit uh, Pakistan when they refused to take the program that India provided to them. On 10th of May, early on 10th of May, India hit across the length of Pakistan. So it was not like one military base or two military bases. I mean, from Noor Khan in the north to Bholari in the south, India hit almost 10, if I remember correctly, military air bases, and completely decimated their air defense system. And in fact, there's another lesson to be learned there in military campaigns, that Operation Sindoor was undoubtedly the most successful military operation of the 21st century. Without any doubt, because every military campaign, every military operation has a strategic and political objective. And in this case, India's objective was to make it clear to Pakistan that any act of terrorism will be seen as an act of war. So India, in that sense, changed its doctrine, and perhaps there is a lesson to be learned by other countries, that before going into conflict, you really have to know what your objectives are and where you stand, in terms of hard power. And of course, no one has ever doubted that in any conflict between India and Pakistan, I mean, India will dominate. But it was just the scale of the domination, the manner in which India thrashed Pakistan, probably came as a little bit of a surprise to everyone. I mean, yes, India is the fourth most powerful military in the world. It is known, it is a known fact. But it's not that Pakistan was considered a lightweight either, at least not before Operation Sindoor, because it also ranks 12, 13 on that same index. But the manner in which India thrashed Pakistan clearly showed that the differential is quite substantial now. But India being a responsible power, when Pakistan de facto surrendered and requested a ceasefire, India agreed to it. In fact, there was, a lot of discussion in India that why Prime Minister Modi decided to stop, because Pakistani air defenses were completely destroyed, in so to speak, and the skies were naked, so India could have bombed Pakistan anywhere. But India is a responsible power, and India is a responsible superpower, and it did not do so. There is a lesson to be learned there as well. So let's hope that this conflict gets resolved quickly. And it is very likely that India is going to play a prominent role as and when that happens. Thank you.